All right, what's going on, everyone?
Keep going.
What's going on, everyone? I am David Saborio, and I'm the guitar instructor here at Avalon School of Music. And here we got Mr. Isaac Holliday, the longtime senior. No, you don't want to be senior. You're called senior.
No.
Okay, longtime piano and vocal instructor here at the school.
Still makes me sound old. But okay, come on.
And you know what? In this video, it's actually directed for people who are just starting out as music instructors, whether they're out of college or just going for a new path in their musical career. And it can be a little overwhelming, especially if you're starting out. But at the same time, man, it's liberating, especially if you know what you're doing. And some of you might not know how to get started. And that's why we got this guy over here to help us give suggestions, tips, recommendations, and very sage advice. What'd you say, Isaac?
Very sage. Oh my. He's really trying to make me sound old, but I'm not. But well, as you know, that here at Avalon, and we work at Avalon School of Music in Wiley, one of the things that we are fortunate to get to do is we get to teach music. And here at Avalon, we are actually independent contractors. There's an administrative assistant here. They call in and she schedules everything, but we get to figure out how we want to teach. So right now, this is my studio that we're in, and so increasingly, what has been happening is we've been getting questions about, well, how do you keep retention? How do you retain students? And so he sort of posed a question, and so we just wanted to do this because this is just our experience. Your experience is definitely going to be different. I've been our current owner, Simon. He's actually owned the school for,
oh man, like 5 years?
No. I think just a little over 6 years.
Okay.
Yeah. And I think I was one of the first teachers that he hired. We had a couple of teachers that were already here. So that's one of the things. We're independent contractors. Some schools, they do it as employees.
Well, yeah. And now, here's question number one, Isaac. This is a nice studio, and that's what we're filming in. First question, can I have your studio? Man, I've been eyeing this place for a long time, ever since I came here, man.
Well, this used to be the old drummer's room, and so when I first took it over, man, it had all of the soundproofing and everything. So, but no, they cleaned it out. And no, he cannot have my studio.
Dang it. But I got a bunch of amps, man. They're taking up room. They're taking up too much space in my room.
Put a shelf. Put in a shelf. All right.
Okay. No. All right. But first question. So, what would you recommend for teachers who are just starting out because they don't know how to get started and they don't know how to present, even if it's the most basic examples for students, whether they're like 5 years old, 6, even 3 or 4, you know? So what would you do? Like, because I know you teach students of different ages and different backgrounds. Like, how would you keep them engaged or entertained or excited with the instrument?
Ooh, okay. We didn't talk about this, but that's actually a good question. Getting started, that's going to be the toughest thing because one, you have to figure out what your personality is and your teaching style, and right out of college or right out of whatever, if you're thinking about starting or if you've been in a different career path, and then all of a sudden you're trying to get, and maybe your second passion was music. You're trying to figure out how to get into music, how to own your own studio. Now the business part of that, I will let someone else do that. But as far as the teaching part, because a lot of people do it from their homes, and so they come to you. And so that's one avenue. You can do like us. You can be independent contractors, or you can be an employee. Just depends on how the school is set up. How do you keep them engaged? Well, that's going to have to do with you as the teacher. How do you teach? What value can you bring to the student? And it's what am I talking about? Nowadays, my professors, when I sort of started out, it was like, you do what I say, practice an hour a day, whatever. And so nowadays, that is simply just not the case. That's the way my professors did. And so I think starting out, it is. That is kind of how I taught, if you want to be in the music field, you got to practice for an hour a day. But I have had to modify my teaching style because that is simply not the case now. Students, they're involved in multiple activities. They're involved in after school practice. They have club sports. They have school sports. Then on top of that, they have homework. And so keeping them engaged, I have to do it what I call it the backdoor way. Don't know if that's the right term for it. Most of the students nowadays, they don't want to be great musicians. One, either their parents are making them take because they want them to have an appreciation for music. And then secondly, they've heard something on the radio that they want to play. So most of my students, that's the case. They don't want to come in being concert musicians. You know, I know that in a couple of years that they will probably quit because activities are going to be too much. How do I get them engaged? I figure out what they like. And I see, so from a piano perspective, even if they come in, they don't know anything about music, I'll ask them what song they like. And sometimes I can, since I play by ear and I play by music as well, we can figure out a way. I can figure out, you know, okay, you got to sing this song, but I'm going to show you how to play like a 2-note chord. That's one way. Secondly, if they're a little bit older, I can teach them some chords real quick. Well, what if they don't know the notes on the piano? It doesn't matter. You have to figure out a way, and I call it the hook. And that's simply what it is. It's a hook. What is that one thing within a matter of a few moments that I can get them to want to stick with music? One of the things that I do with most of my younger students, most of them know Mary Had a Little Lamb. I say, okay, I can guarantee that I'll have your song playing at the end of this 30-minute lesson. We talk about finger numbers, and then I put their hands in the C position, and then I just write a series of numbers. I do 3, 2, 1, 2, 3, 3, 3. If they're right-handed, sometimes I'll do their left hand because that's their weaker hand. I want them to strengthen their weaker hand. Or I'll do, you know, left hand would be 3, 3, 4, 5, 4, 3, 3, 3. Okay. So and then they do it like that. But by the end of that 30-minute lesson, I'll say congratulations, and I'll shake their hand and I say you just played your first song on the piano. And it's most of the time it's Mary Had a Little Lamb. I can keep them in one position, and that's it.
Well, okay, that's actually not something that a lot of teachers would have considered doing, you know. I sure as heck wouldn't have, but that's really good to know. But the exercise...
Oh, wait, and then let me say, but he also teaches piano too. So he teaches guitar and piano. So that's how this whole conversation came about.
Yeah, but you also mentioned that for some of your other students who maybe don't have the full grasp of the concept of music yet, you give them exercises that aren't strictly musical. Is that the case, or is that still the thing that you do from time to time with other students?
Are you talking about like rhythmic exercises?
Or just...
Well, it's music.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
Well, it could be rhythmic, or it could be something that they can connect with music, whether it's more on the artistic side or as visual cues or something along that line.
It sort of depends on the student. If they have other interests, especially if they are an artist, I will have them to go look at a piece of art, or if they have something like ChatGPT or some of the other, I mean, you know, have them to create something on ChatGPT. Depending on the age, though, a lot of the younger parents, they have not, because AI, it's like the new thing now, and I've just been experimenting with it myself. But I had one student, an older student, I said, go to ChatGPT and just play around with it, figure out, I don't know, create something, and it create the words. And then it'll come up. ChatGPT will bring up this idea that it has, and it's kind of cool. I've been playing with it myself, so I might insert a picture here when I edit the video, kind of show you a couple of things that I did with just playing around. And then I tell them that musicians used to do that. They used to have these ideas in their head before there was any kind of electricity, before any of that. Musically, they had these ideas in their head, so they would write them down. And so then what we have now, we call it classical music, but those were the ideas from people's heads, and they would sit down and they would write these, you know, whether it was vocal music or orchestral music, they would sit down and they would write all of this out. And so whereas nowadays we have a ChatGPT, which is AI, back then they had pen and paper. They had these ideas running around, and then how do you put all of these ideas together in this order? And then these great composers came up with all of these symphonies and concertos and things like that.
I'm old school. I ain't using ChatGPT. Even if you pay me, screw that. I'll write it down. Or I'll draw it out. But I ain't using no freaking artificial intelligence technology. Screw that.
Well, that's a big thing with musicians right now because not just ChatGPT, but there's some other ones I can't think of right offhand. But it's actually this artificial intelligence is actually creating music, and so we're getting into the debate now. So we won't go down this path, but we are that is getting to the debate about musicians and music. So that's not the point of this, but that argument. I mean, that's becoming a huge argument right now.
Yeah, I mean, but going forward, because this is mainly directly for new coming teachers or teachers who just started out, and so, there are lots and lots of occasions where you have these young students who are very excited to get started on their instrument, piano or guitar, and as soon as they see the instrument, they'll jump on it, start banging on the keys or strumming their strings as if they're gonna cause chaos as a rock star or whatnot. And it's pretty stressful for some of those teachers, it's for them, it's just all that dissonance, all that chaos. It's just, it's kind of stresses them out. But you would suggest for them to keep doing it, get it out of their system, but at the same time, just so that they develop a feel for the instrument, Oh gosh.
Student comes in, most of the time, all a parent hears is banging. So, is that going to hurt the piano? No.
It hurts my ears.
Yeah. Same thing with a guitar. And I was kind of telling him the other night, just letting them strum it. Some teachers don't let them touch the instrument the first time, which is okay. That's not what I do. I let them that right there. That's it. So now then we break it down, and I say, okay. So now what are you going to do with that noise? How are you going to break that noise down to a song? So for the younger students, they get all excited. They just get to banging. That's where I put that's the hook. Okay, and when I say that's the hook, they're banging on it. Yes, it is irritating to me. But the thing is, they're excited. So who's the lesson for? Is it for me or is it for them? Am I trying to gain that client? And most of the time, the parent is sitting there. Because at the end of the day, this is my studio. I run my studio how I want to.
Yeah.
That's how I do it. And the parents need to know that. Okay, I'm slightly off topic. So student bangs on the keyboard. Then all of a sudden I say, now we have to begin to make music. What you made was noise. Okay. So which it was, but guess what? They're excited. They're touching the instrument. It's easy for me to say that because this is the school's instrument, and I let them do that. Now, but it's a piano. It's an acoustic piano. Even when I've always had keyboards because I've lived in an apartment, and so we can't really have a piano. But if they lightly do it on the keyboard, then I'm okay with it. And that's what they do on the acoustic. It's not like they just bang on it like a drum. They don't do that. But just kind of bang a few notes around. They get all excited. They're happy and stuff like that. And so then we take that excitement and then we just sort of begin to hone it in and say, hey, now we're going to start making a little bit of music. You got to learn this instrument. Right now, you're a noise maker, but we want to turn you into a musician.
Yeah, and there's lots of advanced teachers who've been teaching a while. They could pick up on that, on that advice.
I don't mind a lot of noise. That's the whole point. So.
Yeah. But what about the students who know what they want? Like, you have these that they want to just jump into learning songs from Taylor Swift or Adele or all these Billie Eilish or the big time pop artists, but you have these instructors that they want to first build them up with the foundation, like the fundamentals, the important essentials of their instrument, their scales, their arpeggios, their chords, knowing their notes on the keys as well as the fretboard on the guitar. But that's where you start losing those students, and they get discouraged, or they just decide not want to take lessons anymore, and they'll just go to YouTube. But so, what would you suggest for that? In that regard.
I don't see anything wrong with it. Here's the thing: if they're older and they come in and they know what they want to do, I see what they know. So if I have a piano student and they come in and they want to play a song by Billie Eilish. Okay, well, can you play a song by Billie Eilish? They'll typically say either yes or no. If they say no, then why don't you? You don't have enough piano background, or maybe that it's just something that they aspire to. At some point, they wish to do that. If a student already has some background, I say, okay, well, do you play chords? And since I teach by chords as well, UltimateGuitar.com. They're not sponsoring this video. Guitarists have been using it for years, but pianists have not been using it for years. At least most of them that I know, especially if they have a classical background. A lot of them can't play by chords. But music is so good now where you can figure out a way to play. But that for right now, if a teacher does not understand basic 1-4-5 chords, they can't teach these students nowadays. Unless the student specifically wants to go into classical music, most of these students nowadays, you have to be able to at least play 1-4-5 and a 6 chord, because most of the music, contemporary Christian music, it's all basically 1-4-5. Most pop music, that's why most classical musicians hate pop music, because it's only 4 chords. It's only 4 chords. And then, they figure out what the loop is. The loop is typically 8 bars or something like that. And then it goes on to something else. That's the formula. Once you figure out what the formula is, then you can teach your student. And so I grew up in the Black Baptist church. So it's not all 1-4-5, but I can still fake it enough to where, I can play at church and things like that. But for the most part, that's how you teach them. You have to do it the back. You have to go. I call it backdoor method. Is you teach them chords, because normally the standard progression is you teach them about the piano, teach them how to read music, and then they learn how to play, and then they get into chords. That's how the books are set up. Literally all of the method books that we have, that's how they're set up. They get into chords a little bit in maybe the primer, but usually by the middle of the level 1 books, if you will. All of them are set up like that. That's when they start using chords. But I teach them sooner. If I have a student that has an aptitude for it, I'll teach them 1-4-5 and 6. That's just me.
Yeah. Oh man, I teach them the whole thing. The 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and the 7 diminished. And then we go into the modes of harmonic minor, melodic minor, harmonic major, and all that stuff. If they're interested, of course. So that goes into my next topic. And even though this is more of like an extra thing. Now, what if you got one of those students who are just super duper advanced, and I'm not speaking for you, because I don't know if you've ever had a student that kept you on your toes because they were just so well developed in their, because they came from a large musical background, or they know a lot of the theory behind their instrument that they're honing in their studies.
I've had a couple of students like that. I think I have 1 or 2 right now. I know I have 1 right now, and his dad went to a prestigious college and I believe got a piano degree. Well, when he comes in, for most classical teachers, those are the students that we love because they have a passion for the music already. So how in the world do they do when they come to me? Most of those students come to me, and it's really weird, and that's been the case in my career. Most of those students come to me because they know that I don't only do classical music. They know that I do, that I teach, Black gospel music, and I have five students right now that want to go into the ministry. So they want to be music, praise and worship leaders. That's it. So I have 5 students right now that want to be praise and worship leaders. And I'm teaching them how to do praise and worship. And again, it boils down to chords. The music right now is chords. And I don't know what other people use, but right now I use CCLI. There's a section that is called Song Select. So it has the words, then it has lead sheets, and then it has chord sheets, which is for choirs. So they have the 4-part harmony there, so that even classical musicians can play that music as well. So basically, this classical musician, he is, he's a little bit tired of just classical music, and he wants to do something else. He wants to play at church. And so I said, okay, well then this is what we're going to do. and I teach him how to play chords, but we use his classical training, we use his classical background because he already has it. You just bring that to your music. So instead of banging on keys, and this is kind of a side note, but most praise and worship bands that play too loud, and I say praise and worship, but it's just loud. I can't hear the singer sing, and so there's no nuance to the music. It's either loud or everything is soft. There's no harmony, and it's just a hot mess. I'm not saying everybody, but that has just pretty much been my general feel about it. We can argue about that later. But for my student, what I want him to realize, I want him to bring his artistry to his praise and worship. There's no reason why praise and worship can't be just as exciting as a symphony or a concerto. There's no reason. And so I want him to bring his artistry to that. So maybe we can have these praise and worship leaders that understand nuance. And his classical background will help with that.
Okay, well, you obviously know about praise and worship, gospel, and classical music, but what if you had a student that was coming in with a different type of genre mindset, like they wanted to learn fusion or psycho jazz or even rock and roll,
It all starts with the basics.
Elaborate.
It all starts with the basics. If a student can want all of those things.
I'm saying if they are versatile in it, but they just want to take it to the next level. That's what I'm saying.
I've never had any students that wanted to do fusion jazz.
Okay.
Most of the students that are coming in, because when you begin to get to that level, that's almost collegiate, because what you do at the local studio, and to me I call this a local studio because we're in a community, and so that's, if it's not I think there's one or two schools here that's close by, well, they're within like 50 miles of us.
There's Collin College.
Well, yeah, but see, that's more of a conservatory where and there's some schools, I want to say it's in Frisco, but anyway, but what they do is they don't even do pop music. They do all of the they give out ribbons and stuff, the competitions, and it's all classical. They do, like I said, they do the competitions, and they're geared toward that. So when they get to a certain level, by that time, when they get to high school or whatever, they're ready to go into the university for fusion jazz.
Right.
But at most local stores like what we do, I haven't seen anybody do that, because I've played. This is only my second one, and then I've done private lessons for I don't know how many years. But when you begin to get to that level, you're on a different level than what most of us do. Can we do it? The answer is yes. We can do it, but for the most part, we don't even have students. I've never had a student make it that far.
Okay.
I've had one or two, but I do piano and voice, and so typically it's all classical in nature. So we don't do fusion jazz. That's only for you guitarists.
No, man, no. But
and piano players.
But okay, you kind of answered the question, but I'm going to follow up with it.
Come on.
So, do you think that a teacher should be familiar with as many genres or styles of playing and teaching as possible, so that they can be more versatile or prolific in their craft, so that they can get more potential students or maintain their retention rate? Do you think that'll help?
No.
No? Okay.
No. And here's the reason why I say that. Great performers, and I've said this for a long time, great performers don't always make the best teachers. Just because you know a whole bunch of genres, that doesn't mean that you're able to break it down to students who simply want to play a Taylor Swift song. If you're talking above their heads, they're not getting anything from you. Knowing a whole bunch of genres, don't get me wrong, it's nice to know, but if you have a great foundation, you can play any genre. If your students are so prolific in the basics and you challenge them and you motivate them, the genre doesn't matter. So that's why I say teachers don't have to know every single genre that's out there. Know about them, so when a teacher, I won't even say know about them. I was introduced to, I was just getting ready to say, It's something in Sons. It's something in Sons. It's not a genre that I would listen to.
Mumford and Sons.
Mumford and Sons.
Yeah.
That's it. That's it. And this has probably been about, I don't know, 10 or 15 years ago. But she introduced me to Mumford and Sons. Okay, I don't. That's not something that I listen to. Now, do I have an appreciation for it? The answer is yes. Once she introduced me, and I started listening to some of the songs on my own, I'm like, oh, I kind of like this. It's not a genre that I listen to. Mm-hmm. I don't have to know about every genre, but because my training is in the basics is so good, I can appreciate the genre and I can teach the genre. Why? It's all lines and spaces.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it's all lines and spaces.
It's universal.
It is. It is.
Well, shoot. I think. Is there anything else you'd like to add? Because I'm pretty much fresh out of questions for the viewers.
Well, one of the things that we did talk about was retention. The tough part is, how do you retain your students? And it's really everything that I've just said, but it all boils down to the teacher, because you can be a great performer, but if you bring no value to your students, then they're not going to stay with you.
Yeah.
If you can't hook them to stay with you, they're not going to stay with you. And really, and so it's, while we're talking about retention during COVID, and that was just a couple of years ago, I was just curious. Well, partly because our owner, he was offering some bonuses, but he doesn't do it. He doesn't do it anymore. But at that time, he was giving bonuses, and so if you were above a certain percentage, well, during COVID and right after COVID, my retention was roughly 88%. It was like 87 point something, like 88.6 or something like that. Next I'm gonna round it up. But anyway, but it was around. But really, when certain teachers, when they lost most of their students, or 50% of their students, I never lost that many. During COVID, my retention was at 87.6%. I say 88%, but how did I do that? One, by then I had already established a rapport with my students, the ones that stayed. I had already established that when you come, you're going to be respected. You're going to learn. I'm tough. I will admit I'm tough, and I have had males and females cry because they feel like they can't do it. But it's my job to assure them. But again, when they come in, they know they're going to be respected. They know they're going to be tough. I expect a lot out of them. I'm honest with them. They're honest with me. We have this thing. If I say, why didn't you practice? No, I'll say, did you practice? All I want is a yes or no. I want to hear no excuses, just a yes or no. If you say yes, then your music, that my expectation is different. If you say no, then I'll just say, okay, we'll move on. So if they begin to give long instructions, I say, I don't want to hear all that. I don't. See, there are certain things I'm old school about. Yes or no. Let's move on. Where I'm not going to fuss. Let's just move on. But that's my studio. That's my style. That's my personality.
Yeah. No, that makes sense. Okay, actually, I do have one final question because you brought this up. Do you think everybody is capable of learning? Everybody's capable of learning? Because there are teachers, and I'm not excluding myself. There are teachers who think they might be too good for a certain student because they're, at a very specific age, or they have something going on, if you know what I'm saying. Mm-hmm. And so, we shouldn't. I mean, I'm not trying to say that it's discriminatory by any means, but the question is just this simple: is everyone or anyone capable of learning or being taught music?
It's kind of a tough question, and I'm going to say yes and no. Now, it's a bit of a cop-out answer, I know. I'm going to say yes because every student has the right to be treated with respect, but also to learn music.
Yeah.
Okay. I want to make sure I'm very careful here because typically I don't teach students below 5 years old. But we do have a couple of teachers here that will teach them younger. When parents come in, I had a couple of parents, they came in and they specifically requested me, but they had a child that was 4 years old, and they asked what I teach them. Typically, I would have said no. This is my studio, and I have the right to say no. But I went against the grain and I said yes. And so what happened was, it's a challenge it's been a challenge for me, because I want to make sure that, that I'm treating the student correctly. Am I treating the student fairly? Am I able to teach them? And amazingly, the answer is yes. The student works well with my personality. I've been able to sort of, figure some things out and teach him to where he can actually learn. So can every student be taught? The answer is yes. Unless there's just a really a learning disability, I've had a couple of students, they've been dyslexic. I've still been able to teach them. Unless there's a real learning disability, then most of the time the answer is yes, that it can be taught. Here lately, I've been getting, within the past few years, I've been getting a lot more autistic kids and students with ADHD. And if you're not able to deal with that, that is going to wreak havoc on you as a teacher. But it's, the autistic students that I have had have been very high functioning. And so I know some teachers, they're like, no, I'm not doing it. I know teachers that have said that, no, I'm not doing it. It's too much for me. And you know what? I respect that. That's your studio. There's some of us, we're just crazy enough to try. And I worked at another facility. It's been several years now, and I had a couple of autistic students, very, very high functioning. Some of them, you wouldn't even know they were autistic unless they told you. A lot of students, like I said, are on meds for ADHD or something like that, ADD or whatever. And so you just have to. Can every student be taught? The answer is yes. Can I teach everybody? The answer is no. I've had some students, they come in and they're like, nope, for whatever reason, just parents are like, nope, this is not going to work for us. That's been very, very far and in between. Very, very far and in between. I already know I'm tough. I tell the parents I'm tough. My expectations are high. Yes. So I would rather have a parent that says, you know what? We don't think that this is going to be a good fit for him. I respect that. I don't take it personally. And starting out, that's the toughest thing to do, is to not take things personally, because you're trying to build up your studio and you want to cater to as many people as possible. But then what happens is a parent says, well, we don't think that this is a good fit. And so then, you see potential dollar signs going out of the door. I see it as an opportunity to say, okay, is what I'm, you do some personal evaluation. Is my style too tough? Is it going to deter too many students? Or do I want to have high standards because that's what I want to be known for? And it's a balancing act. There are some students that have stayed with me, and I was like, I don't even know why you stayed with me. Why did you even stay? Then next thing I know, a year later, they've matured a year, and it clicks. And it clicks. So for me, that's what works for me. I know that I'm fairly tough. Yeah. So, and even with my autistic students, I am. So because I want them to be treated, I want everybody in my studio to be treated fairly. I want them to know that they're safe in my studio. Yeah. And I'm not, you're not going to waste my time, but I'm not going to waste your time either. Right. So.
Well, I like to say that's a wrap, Thank you so much, Isaac. I'd say this is very insightful. I do have one final bonus question.
He just said there was a final question.
No, one final.
Okay, go on. One final?
Yeah. Okay. If our boss, Mr. Simon, if he ever gets back to doing the whole retention rate bonuses and, and knowing you since you have the highest retention rate.
I'm one of them. Yeah.
Okay, but if you do get a check, man, think you can cut me a percentage for good old days,
Yeah, I'll give you $20 for gas. So, but yeah. So we'll have to check him out on that. So, but I will say this: if you're thinking about starting your own studio, if you're thinking about working for someone else, we're lucky enough that everybody around here, we treat each other like family. We have we respect each other. We basically we stand up each other's way, but we talk and things like that. But if you're thinking about doing that, I will tell you it is tough, whether you're working for someone else or you're starting your own studio. Because it's going to be about location. Where is the store or your house located. How well are you known is going to be about that as well. So, you know, everything matters. But as far as once you get them in the door, usually, you know, that's the deciding thing right there.
Yeah.
One of the deciding factors is whether they stay with you or not. So, you know, good luck to any young teachers out there, or if you're struggling with retention or anything like that. So, but we just wanted to put this together and say, hey, you know, good luck, and we wish you well. So if you need to hit us up, then, you know, wait a minute. No, I was going to say I'm David, but.
And I'm Isaac.
No, this is David, and then and I'm Isaac. And so, you know, if you want to shoot us a question, just hit us in the comments. And so think about liking this video, and we appreciate you watching. You guys, y'all take care.
Yeah, thank y'all. Peace.